Government of India, expert with MEDA, MPCB, IE, ISCHE, and many professional bodies. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam, for those kind words and introduction. So
Yes.
around 415 participants trying to get benefited from the pleasure of understanding on outcome-based education and particularly about learning aspects. At the outset, I congratulated Dr. Mangal madam, the coordinator for taking the initiatives along with the team of AISSMS for taking huge efforts for keeping the learning active, even though there are disturbances through storms and some natural calamities. However, they continued with the learning. The passion of the learners has been accomplished by them, and I really appreciate it. I think every learner present here should have a good round of applause for them. I'm thankful to AISSMS College Principal Dr. Burmane sir for giving an opportunity to share my work into the field of learning. The topic that we are discussing shall be on active learning. Now, the parts have so many things into the modern pedagogical systems where we can have engagement of the students, the learners particularly that we call, at a greater extended time so that we can continue our sharings with them. So the teacher becoming a facilitator in today's world want to share more with the learners, and obviously the maturity level of the learners is quite enhancing day by day, particularly last 3 months if we have seen post-COVID during this COVID pandemic, and then the learnings that will happen post-COVID, there will be a great difference into the systems. And I will try to share my work into, that's what I have a little bit muted with the idea of sharings, and I'm trying to work it on more on helping the pedagogies or active learning techniques for e-learning aspects. So with the permission, I would like to share my presentation.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. I'm finding it difficult to open PPT. I checked, however. It's not allowing.
Sir, that's why I had said you to mail us because we can. Okay. So I think if you are unable to move, you can mail us.
Yeah, that's fine. Meanwhile, I think it allows me to open PDF file.
Yes, just use. You just open a PDF.
Yeah, I kept it
on
ready.
your mobile. On your mobile, you just open PDF and then start screen share. Okay, sir. Fine. Now you, I can see your screen.
Let me work on PDF file because.
Yes, no problem.
Anyway, some activities which I schedule we may miss because that is what a learner's response is requested. PDF will open them all together. That's fine. That's okay. Okay. Yes. So now let's focus more on empowering e-learning by using the active learning methodologies and how we can work on. Now, today we will be shortly briefing on how active learning has been worked out, or people are trying to find out different ways to engage the students and learners in particular, what it really means by, what are the different cognitivism and active learning techniques, using them in classroom, designing the pedagogies for active learning, and the future trends that come up. I hope the morning session that we had one, where we started working on how outcome-based systems can work on. So I find a learner, being a learner into the outcome-based system, that let me present the outcomes of the sessions. What could be the outcomes by all fellow teachers and learners would understand after the session is reviewing the development of educational pedagogies in the context of Indian higher education. Specifically, I will be talking because there are so many efforts worldwide, they may not be that much applicable to the Indian context. And then moving from education 3.0 to 4.0, then how pedagogies can be quantified with facilitation of information and communication tools for online learning specifically, design the individual and group active learning pedagogies, which I shall share with you, that how we can do them in classrooms, how to evaluate them, particularly for flipped class, then create the mind maps as a part of active learning pedagogy. And obviously, we shall be empowering the facilitators or the online learners. Because today, the online learning is a quite critical part. The engagements of the learners and keeping them active is a challenging work for a facilitator. And that's what we shall be focusing more on, how we can keep engaging these learners with different pedagogies or pedagogical systems. Now, it may happen, as you are aware, the exhilaration given by the learners, particularly the students that we call, is completely different into the 21st century. Now, a learner has its own learning passion or inclination, and a learner should choose a proper learning methods. However, because of the glamour which is associated with the paid jobs later to the education, education is today quite related, particularly in the Indian context, related to the jobs, which should not be, right? Education's purpose, one of them out, there are 5 major purposes, and then one of them, and fifth one is the job. So we have to understand it. We are taking it in a wrong way actually, and we all being the learners should teach the students, particularly that it's not, job is not the only purpose of the education. It is one way of livelihood, and that education should enhance it. Now the students should choose a proper field of work. That's what is important. It starts with the pedagogies, basically starts with choosing a proper way of functioning in the era of understanding where we are interested. This is not happening because probably the glamour associated with engineering, medicine, and laws and related aspects, we are unable to cope with them. And the particular tendencies that we call for a learner have to be identified, which is an important work. What are the 21st century skills? Those are required for a learner. These are fundamental literacies, the competencies, and the character qualities. So there are like literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, and culture and civic literacy. Right? So that it starts with the fundamentals works. It moves on competencies where the skill-based education approaches, where we have a critical thinking or problem solving, particularly different pedagogies work on, like project-based learning, problem-based learning, or collaborative learning. And then we start with having a metacognition on the processes or systems. Very important one, which I always keep on sharing with my another systems or presentations, and on creativity, which is the versatile component of learnings. And that's the major thing. I hope last year everybody of us has heard, and then there is a lot of churning and discussion on Daimler-Benz saying, the president saying, and the recently the is saying that the creativity is going to be an important aspect, and half of the students which are right now in their education, they will be performing the job which is in existence today. So we all have heard this, how it is going to come up, how different jobs are going to come up, and what will be the jobs vanishing, that we have to understand them. And that's what creativity is, the one that's only will help us all strive through. Yesterday and last 2 days, we strived through the storm Nisar, right? We survived. Same thing is the creativity. That's only thing which will survive us all through the systems. Communication. It could be a business communication, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and the collaboration that we want to come up. particularly in pandemic. I'm basically from chemical engineering background. At this situation, there is a huge collaboration happening among the biological systems, biochemicals, and chemical engineering systems, and then all of them are trying to come up with different aspects of situation remedies, and that's what is a solution, is what we target as a point of learner, and that's what should come up. The collaboration talks about solution reaching. Numerals, millions of problems can be faced. However, those who could solve them, bring up with a proper, economical, affordable solution is what we want. And that's what the learners we want to develop. Whatever stream we are, independent of the stream, developing learners coming up with the solutions is our target as a facilitator. And then obviously the character qualities where curiosity, the initiative, the persistence, that's very important one, or perseverance, I will say, because most of the time the students almost are reaching to the results and then they leave. That should not happen. The perseverance should be an important aspect. We teachers also do sometimes, is that with some of the students who are maybe God gifted students learning at a higher pace, or some of the students who are unable to cope up with the pace and not being into the bus of the mediocre students, then we are trying to give up sometimes, and when we are reaching very close. So that perseverance quality, that adaptability, we are all trying to adapt to the situation. So we should not adopt, we should adapt to the situation, so that we turn ourselves into the directions we are moving. Pre-COVID, post-COVID situations, we are trying to adapt, we are trying to learn online, we are trying to enhance our sharings, and all that's an adaptability which should enhance further. Obviously leadership, the team AISSMS showing the leadership courage to come up and share the wisdom learned by the practitioners and bringing them to all the learners. That kind of leadership should be appreciated. And social and cultural awareness, new normal that we are talking in the present context. So all these parts are nothing but the sharings would come as a part of teaching learning process. Now, we should be very careful to understand that this teaching learning process should impart all these systems. Now, there are 9 generic skills which have been shared, and then it comes with collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, metacognition, numeracy, IT, problem solving, self-management, and study, right? And a small caricature I have given why so important is it says that a friend shares with another one that I have taught the dog to whistle, right? A dog is taught to whistle, and the other one says that, oh, I am unable to listen his whistling, and at the same time the earlier one says that I said I have taught.
Hello,
Yes,
please excuse me. Somebody's background sound is coming, either yours or some co-host. Please check. Please check, unmute, mute yourself because background sound is coming. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So same request. Those probably who may not need, please keep your microphones off. Whenever you want, you can. One, I think there are many people who are raising, and the team AISSMS is taking care of them. Yeah. So it says about I have taught. I didn't say it has learned, right? And that's what is happening is we are delivering. However, what is the absorption, metacognition happening with the students? Awareness about their own learning is unaware, and so these skills we are very important to work on. And that's what active learning all helps us all to do that. And this is what a small effort that comes up, which saves at the time. And particularly developing courses or systems. I share my experience of this pandemic going online, conducting more than 100 online sessions of Zoom or Google Meet or Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, all we have experienced. This all helped because we were quite well aware of these systems and easily adapted to the new normals or the online learnings. And that always helps. So preparing yourself for a better situation is always helps you to lead into the systems or adapt to the situations. Now, yeah, some disturbance to the slide because of PDF. However, this is basically on education 4.0. It's most hyped topic at present. So it calls on amalgam of cyber, physical, and biological arena. It impacts on geopolitical, social, economic, and technologies. Particularly if you have seen the Coursera kind of MOOC platform, the massive online open courses which are charging exuberantly. Today, all of them, most of the courses were free of cost, open until 31st of May. And I hope they also will be open or available by some time, right? Extended by some time. So it triggers the transformation in the global value chains, obviously sharing on, and virtual and physical systems for manufacturing globally. And then there are certain components on industry 4.0, right? Particularly those components I have given to you into the shapes. I will not share more on that. However, there are so many components which we can learn on. Still, when we are talking on the augmented reality, where a virtual component is added in a real environment, or it could be virtual reality where for a component the complete environment is virtual. How, and then it could be a mixed reality where both of them. So it's a simple example. If teacher is outside, is still wanted to share with the learners in a class who are in a class, the teacher will be in an augmented reality system. However, if it is opposite way, a student is unable to join a class, the student from home or any workplace will join the class with the virtual reality. So this is how augmented and virtual reality or mixed reality will work. However, this is a little bit distinct feature, particularly in Indian scenario, because working it on small sharings is fine. However, it's very costly technology, at least at present. If COVID would not been there, probably it would have been 2030 for engineering educational systems to adapt with AR, VR. However, with COVID, I think within next two couple of years, some of the premier institutions shall adapt, and then by 2025, with the cost becoming affordable, I could see many AR, VR usage into the general engineering institutions or even to the school levels also. So meanwhile, we have to work on about using some different technologies like head-mounted display, eyeglasses, head-up displays, maybe contact lenses, minimizing the spatial augmented reality systems, hardware and the software cooperating with them, right? Learners can go to and learn more. I have cited the references from wherever I have borrowed my information, which I'm sharing with you, and where little part with the flipped class and the uh, working on mind maps, which I have already created. Now, then until that time, we have to implement education 3.0 fully. So what we work on is before you understand a concept, we must remember it. We have to apply a concept, we must understand it. In order to evaluate a concept, we must analyze it, and to create, we have to have a go through an evaluation, right? And I hope those smart enough would have catched about it. They would have caught it about that this is nothing but the Bloom's recent digital taxonomy, which I am talking on. So we will focus more on the blended text, pedagogies and education 3.0 continuing. Now we have the learning theories. Before we move to the practices, we have to understand that there is a behaviorism, cognitivism, and the constructivism, right? So if you see that today's learner, I have given a caricature, it talks about in a short way that, as we start a new school, dear professor, I just want to know that I am an abstract sequential learner and trust that you would conduct yourself accordingly. So the students are advising and advocating teachers today, and this is not a new thing. And this is going to happen more in coming era. And all learners, the teachers, have to be embracing these kind of advances very, very positively. And it should not be taken up as an adamant nature of the learners. Do not take it that way. We have to understand that their maturity level is increasing, the information flow to them is very huge and large, which we cannot control, right? So that is called as a part of behaviorism. Then the cognitivism, that the thinking, brainstorming sessions we will be doing and understanding how we conduct, however it's happening to the systems. And then constructivism, and this is why it is so important, is the attention time, engagement time of a learner. If you work on the Microsoft survey, the school level students right now have an engagement time close to 3 minutes. So we teachers do not catch up the learner within 3 minutes. The students, the learners are roaming around. They are outside, they're at into their mama's lap in schools, or they are moving around in a movie theater, or they are on a digital platform, and physically they are in a class and we are trying to teach them, right? So they are not learning. And this will not be accepted in the new coming era. We all learners have to understand it. Please make it very, very one. No? We have to be sincere in our work. So the what kind of constructivism we can provide them, so that there would be an cognitivism, that is the brainstorming, and then there would be an improvement in the behaviorism. So this is a cycle that continues. And remember, if we don't work on right now by providing active learning systems, then it becomes a vicious cycle. The students don't work on, they do not submit assignment, they don't write examination answer sheets, midterm assessment papers are zeros. No, I have seen it being on a panel on AICT and in B accreditations or outcome-based educations. Then they are not thinking, they are copying, right? That's what is a, there is no cognitivism, or new benefit from the students is not coming. That's one. And then behaviorism. So the students are not giving respect. Why it comes? Because there is no constructivism. So a teacher has to understand that we have to give them a program. It is very essential. It's teachers' inherent responsibility to give a good program to the student, the learners. Then there's otherwise we don't have any right to talk on the behaviorism, right? The students are not learning, they are not participating, they are not submitting in time. It may happen for a few because of the time domains, uncertainties, the connectivities, bandwidth, and so many issues. However, it should not be coming to the learner blaming them, right? So we have to get prepared for it. How a learner works on is, so we need to be an encouraging teacher. How we can become, we should give them sufficient time, defer the judgments. We should not be a judgmental one. Somebody did something before and maybe connecting or continuing the same should not happen. So we should not impose judgments. We have to show real interest, right? And this all comes without spending time. My fellow teachers might be thinking, oh, we need to spend, where we have to complete curriculum, we have to do so many other non-curricular activities, accreditations are there, all rankings are there. When to do this? We don't have to spend too much of time on that. And that's what I'm suggesting all the time. There are so many pedagogical systems. We cannot implement all of them at once. Make it sure, right? As a learner of pedagogy, practitioner of pedagogy, I share with you, we cannot implement them all. There could be some of them which even I shall be discussing, would have been discussed in earlier sessions. Do not try to attempt to implement them all. We don't have that much of time. I agree on that. However, many of them we can easily implement, right? And there is no too much of time spending. Little bit extra, which I have shown you an ant doing a little bit extra, right? We should not go towards miles of them, little inches at our own pace, right? If we move on, that is more than sufficient for all of us to develop them. Show the real interest. Accept child's decision. Child could be a grown-up adult, even teenager, student. The challenges that the child to try out with the new ideas, right? Sharing. We have to be optimistic about the outcomes, what is coming. They will not learn, they will do that. So we have to understand difficulties coming and impose the solutions on them. However, be optimistic. And I've given the word realistic. See learnings in mistakes. Do not try to stop them. Particularly, many of the places they are trying to work on the learners coming up. And it's an active learning. Remember it. What I'm saying all is a part of an active learning. Then there are open-ended questions. close-ended box or in-box system, out-of-the-box system, and today we are saying no box system. No, whole horizon is yours. You can put up them, encourage, right? They're learning, they follow the students' interest, and then value creative ideas, which is very important. If you go to the NAC criteria 7, even the institutional values or the values given by the teachers to these learners, by the learners to the institution back, by the learners to the society, they all are valued. So this is so important for us to be a practitioner of an active learning. What are those ways? There could be research activities, games, case studies, discussion forums, debates, simulations, investigations, sharing assignments, projects, project-based learning, problem-based learning, right? And it could be collaborative learning, right? The cohesive part that comes up, peer learning, peer evaluation, that works in group work, and there would be some activity like virtual systems, etc. Right. So if you have given one where a student says that when you grow up, what you want to be, want to become, and the answer is awesome, right? And the teacher uh, degrades that it cannot be. However, why it cannot be, right? That could be one. It should not be a profession. I want to be a doctor, an engineer, a practitioner. That could not be. It's a profession. So what you want to be an awesome, we have to encourage this, right? This learning activities come, particularly to the engineering teachers who are there in this platform, or particularly higher education, 12 plus. I would like to advise them all that we have to understand what is the bringing up of the school growing children right now, which I shared. 3 minutes to 7 minutes in the high school level students is the attention time. If you do not try to catch them up, if you are not able to engage them within 7 minutes, you lose them. And remember, the coming era is not allowing a teacher to lose them. No, you cannot think of like I will come permanently continue in the profession if I am continuing with the same approach, right? So I have to be very diligent into what I am sharing, what I am provoking the students, right? And it happens, and that's what I suggest. Don't do that. There is something which is coming today, that people are sharing their experiences of the employee training and trying to impart it as a part of a classroom learning. I request every learner, please segregate them. Then there would be team building aspects given by the professionals as a training to the employees. For example, teachers or the employees into different companies, they are trained to work in group. That kind of activity is, to that extent, is not required for the learners in the up to higher education, right? So we should be trying to differentiate among the team building activities and then the active learning activities, which anyway team building is a part of it. However, which we can implement into the classrooms. We have to segregate them. Whatever are realistically implicable into the classrooms, doable, only there we should try. Otherwise, we may end up in a mess where there is no sharing of the knowledge and wisdom particularly. And we may share only information which is not, NOT, capital, bold, underline, expected from a facilitator today. So there has to be wisdom sharing by a teacher, by a facilitator in today's era. Right? Now, let's quickly go through who have given. So the knowledge structures, which talks about the sensation, images, sights and sounds, feelings, actions and ideas. I will share you with the kind of students or learners that we have, particularly like the verbal learners, audio learners, visual learners, kinesthetic learners, and in online learning particularly, we have to address all of them. Nobody should miss the bus. And in that case, how to deal with all of them is the exhilarating manifesto a teacher has to exhibit, right, with them. So very importantly, knowledge is constructed by the learner. Don't say that the knowledge is what I'm giving, I am developing a knowledge, which is a wrong pedagogical term. The knowledge is constructed. The knowledge exists in the mind of a learner. Now it is constructed by a learner. Every learner is different. Every learner's mental schemes, they are different. Their knowledge cannot be transmitted as a whole. what I have, I cannot transmit it at complete level to the next. Similar way to the all the students, right? Their psychological systems that they are, that has to be a different one. And then the knowledge must be one to by the learner on the basis of their experience, right? So knowledge is constructed, and all we have seen is the Maria Montessori, who have given the method of education which is characterized by emphasis in self-directed activities. And today we are all talking, that's what we call as Montessori classes, named by the great work she had laid down. And we are thankful for this motherly figure, right? And that's what it's a mother's boon given or benediction given to all the learners. We all learn from the primaries, pre-primaries, and primaries. So Madam Montessori, we should be thankful and express our gratitude to her with this motherly figure. The cylinder blocks the seriation that comes up as a spatial intelligence, and that's what is the same way a knowledge is constructed by a learner. This we have to understand. Now, particularly those in software industry, circuit branches, they know how a data packet is coming. It is shared with a particular code name, coded, decoded, and then it is sequenced, right? If one single link is missed, then we do not get a proper continuation into the data. Same thing happens. It's a metacognition system that comes up where the data or the information, the knowledge and the wisdom we are sharing has to reach to the learner in a constructed fashion. This is very important. I'm sharing something arbitrary at a certain location, and I expect the learner to grow on that way. It may not be possible. We may not become a good teacher. We may have a huge wisdom with us. We will be unable to share that wisdom with the learners. We will not be able to construct the knowledge. So it is a failure. So individual highness of the knowledge of a person is of no value if it is not being shared with the learners properly. And that's an important aspect we have to learn on. It cannot happen. One may be a very fantastic researcher or a person having a cognitivism, however, is unable to share as a teacher has no value. It could be developed as a part of a book, and then somebody else can interpret it and transfer it as a part of wisdom. So it comes up with multiple intelligences. So whenever we are developing active learning techniques, it starts with the multiple intelligence given by Howard Gardner, and based on that we call as kindergartner. Same thing that comes up, Gardner's technique. It starts with linguistic. It could be mathematical, right? It could be the different ways multiple intelligences that comes up. However, it could be a biological, musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, right? And then we have to understand them, what kind of actual learning actually I am devising for a given learner. So it could be performing arts, it could be the science or engineering, it could be law, it could be pharmacy, it could be the circuit branches which are developing their own active learning methods based on multiple intelligences. This is very vital. If I am developing them, I am developing an improper content for the learners. The learners will not be able to accept it. The teacher or a facilitator is not happy because the outcome coming is improper, right? And then there would be resentness which is generated into among the learners and the facilitators, which we have to avoid today, right? That's an important, that's what is active learning is. Otherwise, one-way bombarding of the knowledge from the platform is continuing for years, right? However, today we cannot do that. The learners are expecting differently. The other stakeholders, the parent, the society, the industry, the recruiters, the organizational parts, they are expecting on a different way. So we have to mitigate on all these aspects using multiple intelligences, right? Another one is the Lev Vygotsky, right? A Russian psychologist. He has given on the zone of proximal development. So what the learner can do with a teacher's assistant, but cannot do alone, has to be worked out by a teacher. If they are doing it alone, then I think there is no need of a facilitator. That's what we say, facilitator, right? Because the knowledge is constructed. Knowledge is not developed, generated by a learner. Remember. So that is the learner ready for next? If it says yes, then we should go further. We have to move further. So this is called as a real-time feedback system. So I have to assess them. How I gauge them that the learner is able to learn, right? What I am sharing, not to the full extent. I already shared. Complete extension is not possible, right? However, to the great extent, right? The content should reach to the learner. The content should able to have a metacognition, brainstorming on a given system, right? So the Michael Brody active learning. So what he has given is a student-centered, raising the motivation of the student, organizing a classroom. That's very important one. Otherwise, I've seen many teachers helping into the pedagogical systems, trying to spend a lot of time with pacifying students, or scolding students, throwing some students out, asking them to do something, sit separately. This is all unorganized way of a classroom. It may happen. I'm not saying and denying that it will not happen at all. There would be certain students, and certain number of students who may not be interested or having some interpersonal difficulties with a particular teacher or a learning method. That will happen. However, it is the responsibility of the facilitator to organize the classroom, right? That's an important understanding, how to see it, how to have a behaviorism, right? Which should not be working like a fidgeting process of a student, and then the learner gets organized with the class, and then beyond facts and details, right? So quickly we will go through. The active learning refers to the techniques where students do more than simply listen to a lecture, right? The students are doing something, including discovering, processing, and applying information, right? The McKinney definition which is given. So in a nutshell, it says processing and applying the information, right? So that's an important part of this one. Another definition, which active learning attempts to model the methods and mindsets. Very importantly, the methods and mindsets. We have to model the mindsets of the learners, right? It could be anything. It could be a class of a given course or my stream branch. It could be an online course delivering to certain other class of the students, or it could be some other learners, industry personnel, right? And that's going to increase in the coming era, because as the pandemic is talking more with new normal, the online learning or the training courses are going to increase. So a teacher should be effectively and with efficacy should be able to demonstrate the learning skills, right, with the use of the active learning. So it talks on the mindsets which are at the heart of the scientific inquiry, to provide opportunities for the students to connect abstract ideas to their real world applications. Very important, real world applications. No fictitious, no intangible things. I should not be keep on growing and dreaming, dream for becoming a good or big, that's fine. However, when I apply an active learning, I have to be that way an abstract to the real world applications with useful skills, and doing to gain the knowledge that persists beyond the course experience. So that's what if you see about the GAs or the POs which have been shared by the outcome-based education, Washington Accord, and later with the National Board of Accreditation. Very important term is a lifelong learning. And most of the time I've seen many facilitators, teachers thinking everything is in lifelong learning. This will be useful in life, that will be useful for in life. However, we have to understand whether that skill is a basic one, which is constructing some other knowledge later at a higher class. This is not a lifelong learning. So the practical application which I am working on and the analogies, that's an important. I have to correlate them in a real world. Don't keep them a student learner as a bookish one. And that's what is basically that we call is as an experience or experiential learning, right? Alien and Tanner has given it. So that called as a connect with an abstract ideas, right? And then it comes up on the stimulate thinking, a recent one by the Brody, which I have shown. Active learning is composed of a student-centered environment which raises the student's motivational level to stimulate thinking and go beyond facts and details. So I should not stay only with the information or the the empirical values, right, which I have. So active learning basically talks on the empirical. It doesn't talk on the only being into the only cognitive systems, right? So it says stimulate thinking, right? It is another way of saying Carson's one, or motivate the students. Now let me come how different methods can be used in a classroom. As a learner, how can I implement them? So it calls on like cognitive strategy. So decide on how the knowledge gets developed, constructed, cognitive domains, the metacognition. Simply, metacognition is the awareness, self-awareness of the brainstorming or thinking. Right? What I'm doing, how is it useful? Every learner has to understand it. And I will suggest what I have done in flipped class. I will share with you that it's going to be a completely different paradigm shift. You change the pole. It's called as pole altering, right? Previously a term was there in education called as moving from industry 1.2, 2.2, 3.2, 4.2. Similarly with education 3.2 to 4.2, it's called as leapfrogging. Today we say it's whole world trip. So we have to understand, and it gives you, flipped class really gives you same experience. You will be very happy at that point. It could be scaffolding, it could be pair and share, cooperative learning, collaborative learning, active and reflective, right? Where you try to keep and developing the peers review their own one. So that's a peer reviewing, giving a task on that. And the cognitive tools which mediate the thoughts on visual data. So it's all that's called as perception, and that the student's perception has about something has to be understood and developed by a learner. That's an important aspect when we move towards active learning. Otherwise, we may not be able to create that imaginative systems, and the creativity will not reach to the desired level, or it could be like it will kill the creativity. That should not happen with these systems, with the cognitive tools. What are the different cognitive domains that we call on, particularly with the these things? So the knowledge, where it could be an empirical, or it could be a psychomotor, it could be a conventional, affective, and then it could be a rational one, right? Important one, or some of them will be on narrative. It could be conceptual, it could be received, or cognitive routism. Why I'm sharing with you, we have to develop the different active learning pedagogies based on the different systems, right? So these we have to first understand. Empirical based basically talks on like learning experience wise, right? It's not on a thought experiment. For example, Albert Einstein, right? We know, everybody respect, right? Starting with understanding, has not worked out on a single practical experiment, no empirical knowledge. So it's all on a cognitive basis knowledge, right? So thought process, thought experiments, all of them, they have worked on. So it could be on a similar basis. There is nothing wrong in that one, right? Then the first strategy which I'm giving you, sharing with you, is on the oriented strategies where attention is drawn to a task. So all learners should draw to a particular attention of the students to a particular incident. It could be inquiry-based learning, or a certain student asking something on a relative domain of the discussion. You take the thread ahead. Do not keep it on. I always keep on saying in a classroom, suppose I don't want to address it, or it's going to be addressed in a short while, we call it as like I'm going to keep it in a parking space, and after some time you invoke it from the parking space. It respects learner. Respect, remember that a metacognition, self-awareness of a learner, that my discussion points are considered. So you are giving a behaviorism work on that. So attention is drawn to a task. They elaborate on that, expand through the target by adding to it, right? So the information which we possess, or it could be gaining from some domain cloud, that we need to elaborate on that. Transformation, convert the information to be more easily understood fashion, right? So we are coming up with developing a strategy. And then there are mnemonics where we relate a word or a phrase of the information. That means what? we are trying to relate that's what called as an analogy. So an existing experience shared by somebody or a newer knowledge body contributed by a researcher, anything that comes, or a regular phrase which we have that basically calls up or works on in a given system. Now, this is more important after the developing strategy that's called as a metacognition, awareness of a self-critical thinking, right? I'm giving some 5 seconds to focus on it. Right? Right, so it talks about how self-monitoring, self-correction work that goes on by a learner. Then it could be an individual task or it could be in a group task. And then what about the assumptions we had, evidence we produced, the concept that we are working on. It could be a perception, that is conceptualization, the standards related, codes and standards, or on a context or some discussion which is going on. And it could be something which probably is in existence today. However, we are giving it in a given context. And do we have the problem right? If yes, then how will we know that we have accomplished it? That is a successful solution devising. So this is all we have to think on and then work on with the students and learning. So every topic that we are discussing, if we spend only 10 minutes priorly, right, of prior work by a teacher, only 10 minutes for each topic. I'm saying a topic can be extended for 3 to 4 classes in general. So only 10 to 15 minutes, depends on practice. Initially, we may take some half an hour, and then later it could be only up to 10 minutes or sometimes 5 minutes. I have experienced it, like after you experience it for a year, 2 or more than that, even during there is an evidence or incident, right, invoking inquiry learning. At the same time, I start thinking and sharing with metacognition, that awareness that I have generated. So it is one that comes up after a practice. It's not necessary on a day one. We should be. I always hit the term. People share industry ready on day one. There is no necessity. Every industry is, or rather, a company in a given industry sector is different. Right? Industry ready is not really a proper term, because the company's philosophies, their safety practices, operations, all are different. Right? We cannot term them. It's like asking the elephant to fly. Right? We should not do that. So how to do that? Now that was what I had shared. Now let me share how the second active learning technique comes for individuals, and then later I'll give you for the groups. It could be minute papers. Minute papers is briefly expressing in 3-4 lines, quickly, right? That's what during this online learning last 3 months, I shared that with the minute papers, right? Quickly, and ask them to put them on a few examples of the videos, put them on, and quickly share with them. Right? This is how I worked on, and I assure you, share with you that it was very successful. So it could be one, it could be writing activities like an assignment. It could be the muddiest point, right, that we are discussing. It could have been effective response, right, which we are sharing on or asking the learners to provide it, right? That's one. It could be writing a daily journal, a journal of a gratitude, for example, for being a good human being. Everybody should practice writing a daily journal. Right, 3 good things you have done. It could start with a blank page and move over. Same thing. What practice I have done in active learning every day? I just write 3 lines or 3 bullet points. Nothing more than that. Yeah, 1 minute. So if we do that, it gets practice. It could be reading quiz. For example, I can see that a quiz or a feedback is being shared. So same thing. A quiz can be shared during a class or every class, or maybe after 2 or 3 classes, at least 1 week, we can have a quiz, right? That's one. It could be a concept map, which I'll be showing quickly, or it could be drawing or poster creation, and it could be a scaffolding activity, that ones, which I have elaborated. Scaffolding is a new term, so I'm elaborating on that. How it comes? There is a base where there is student knowledge. right? Where what the student can already do, which is seen there. Now there is a new task that student cannot complete on his or own. Right? So this new task of a student.
सॉर्ट करून द्या. मला येत नाहीये करायला. ते कसं करायचं ते तरी सांगा. कारण कसं आता ते
So the new task the student cannot complete on his or her own, where the teacher or the facilitator or the instructor comes in. That's called as a scaffolding, right? And then the student's new knowledge, where he or she can have a new performing task independently. So what is a facilitation required? It could be like supplying some more information, knowledge, wisdom, some tools, some simulations, right? Video-based, do-it-yourself kind of systems, right? All of them. So that can be a work given by a instructor. And one full class, at least after one module or one unit that we call completion, I request each learner, each teacher to spend at least one class where you can have a scaffolding activity or some other active learning methodology that we can work on, right? And this is what we have to learn on, how we can share with or work on a given process, right? Thank you for the greetings. This is a concept map, mind mapping. I will share it little later, not right now. Right? Then it comes on the group learnings right now. Individuals we have seen. So it could be think, pair, share 2, or it could be more 4 to 5, 1. I know generally you can practice of a column of a class benches, right? All or one or odd even numbers, right? Into the roll numbers, odd numbers, even numbers, right? Even assignments I have practiced on, no? Odd numbers this assignment, or odd numbers up to 10 this, and even numbers this. So with the 60-65 students, we have to give some 10 questions. However, that really works on, because that completely prevents copying, right? So you ask them to perform or practice the actual learning. We ask them to develop metacognition. That is a success of a teacher. It could be a brainstorming of an incident, right, on or a given topic that works on. Playing games, I think somewhat difficult. It could be once in a term, that is okay, because that is more frequent for employees, team building in employees, or there are some promotions and appreciations, or the annual performance appraisals, and those performing good or even poor, they are given with some team building games, more prominent into the domain of teams. However, limited applications into the classrooms. Debates, the student to teachers directly, the students do the teaching, that we practice. I think some places on 5th September celebrating Teachers Day. However, it could be more frequent. Remember, it could be more frequent that the groups are one. That's called as a part of a collaborative learning. Then it is more on like a jigsaw learning, right, where a jigsaw puzzle comes up and in a haphazard manner. But because everything should not be well structured, I request all learners, do not structure well. Even sometimes later, once you start practicing, you will implement it without thinking, right? You will not decide it. It will not be pre-decided before you enter the classroom, online or a physical classroom, anyone, and suddenly you start practicing an active learning because you have imbibed it. And that is what I earnest request every learner to, to imbibe it. It should not be made up as a thrashing to some persons. It should not be compulsory. I request the administrators also all the time, wherever possible, do not impose them on the teachers. Every teacher will not be able to do everything, or the same thing cannot be used. Anything, there has to be a freedom and liberty both, right? So limited freedom. So the teacher has to decide, and if the teacher is deciding, that's an empowerment of a teacher. There is a responsibility with the teacher, right? So that's what we all should be able to embrace, that responsibility into the same one. So how to do that? Before that, what should be my objective? That should be increase the students' participation, students' engagement. This is very critical today. And I share with you, my dear, with the camaraderie, that this is going to be very, very critical in the coming days, right? The students' engagement is going to be very challenging. We all talk on don't be in your comfort zone. To come out the comfort zone, what is to do to come out the comfort zone? Is this learning or practicing active learning? Remember, it could be garnering some more skills. I accept. Later I have given something, one slide I am sharing. However, students' engagement is going to be very, very particular. Pleasing students or being too much strict. So all that will vanish in the coming times, because when you are in online, particularly, you cannot has an unnecessary pleasing with the students. You cannot do that, right? So you have to be wisdom sharing, practicing active learning. Only then you will be appreciated by the learners. Otherwise, there would be a distinction coming up into the coming era. What it was like in 2005 or after the 2K, that those who have computer knowledge will called as a literate, right? Illiterate and literacy. Same thing is coming in teachers. Practicing active learning and non-practicing active learning will be the same thing. Pre-COVID, post-COVID challenge. Remember it. Less lecturing by the instructor and working more with the students, invoking them to participate into the class. And this is what you bring them into the class. Remember, I always keep on saying, bringing your learners into the class is the most challenge for you, my dear friends, right? And this is, you experience it, and you will second me that yes, it is the real one. Today, in a regular class, we are not paying attention to that. This will not be the same situation in the coming era, right? And the higher level of thinking which we need, right? And if the Berkshire, the 90-year-old person's wisdom is correct, then 2030, 50% of today's learner will be doing the job which is not in existence today. If it is so, then in that case, we owe more responsibility. There are chances that many of the institutions, organizations will vanish. They will not sustain, right? So it is for the self-sustaining of a teacher that we adapt, right? Don't adopt again, adapt to the actual learning pedagogies. How do we do that? First step is design a cognitive routine. That is, cognitive is brainstorming, thinking, right, on a knowledge constructed basis. Second step is select an actual learning techniques, which I have shown you on a group. It could be an individual, anything that you want, and you choose anything. It is, you are the very one who can do that, right? So do not get imposed by, and do not compare yourself. I have seen many teachers preaching, don't compare others with others, and they themselves are comparing. They are jealous of somebody else. Practice yourself. Why don't you do that? Practice yourself. If you do that, you become the nirmohi, remember, right? You go away from the temptations and start practicing it. So that's called as choosing your own actual learning method, right? Imbibe from other self, get inspired. However, don't practice the same. Build a lesson during the cognitive analogies, and then there is then design and evaluation of testing format. So assessment and evaluation is also an important part. Once you do that, and then only it will be an eureka stage. Hooray, we got it. Yes, my own actual learning method, I have devised it. And that pleasure will make you more satisfied than what you derive, right, from getting your salary. I ascertain you that will be more. So that is the happiness. It's not the pleasure which comes from the materialistic thing. It is necessary. We cannot live. Teaching is a noble profession. Yes. However, it doesn't come free. The instructor has to be paid properly. That is important. When the value will increase, because presently instructors, all teachers are looked at their price. The price is the salary, right? So don't keep with your price. You have to have valuable. Your value has to rise. It will come when you practice the active learning. You are respected by the teachers, the cohort, or the learners, particularly, not only in your school, your college, your domain, outside the world, right? It could be interactions outside the world. One I particularly like, there are some participants coming from abroad in this same session. Why it is happening? Because we are, have a particular active learning method device, and they are more interested. How to develop the cognitive routines then is utilize a person's memory, right? So on that, jigsaw puzzles or some other way, the crosswords or mess up words that we are practicing, same thing. Demand the use of inductive reasoning. I'm not touching to these parts because with the time and extension of time, it will be too much of extension. However, we have to understand on the inductive and deductive learning. All we practice is a deductive learning where I'm not taking out any kind of remedy before it happens. And whereas then in inductive, where I am getting a feedback on the learners, not only on the learning, it could be an evaluation basis, my methodology, the content I am using. And it happens that many a time that when we start teaching, there is a new knowledge body added. And we don't do that. And the learners have some information and they're be fumble. Right? So that should not happen. Even if we do that, active learning makes you that much of compassionate to accept the students that they may be having some more learning aspect in someone. Everybody cannot be perfect. And I always keep on saying perfection is God's business. We are human. To err is human. So there would be errors. We will not be perfect as a teacher. So then these 62s are 120 eyes are looking at you, right? You have to be that much confident by practicing the actual learning systems. The quickness of response, and always I keep on saying we should not react, right? The reaction provokes the response, and that gap should be widened. That widened gap is called as the wisdom. So the wisdom is more important, which should reach to the learner or a teacher. So there is an incidence which invokes you. You have to put your wisdom in between and prolong your response. Do not react. Learn this. If this is a takeaway from today's session, I will say, okay, fantastic, nothing more. No active learning methodologies adapted. However, we learned today that with the takeaway that with the incidence or invocation incidence, there is a response, and with the wisdom field in between, prolonged response, no reaction, you are a good facilitator. I will share with you. You will become a good facilitator. Then there should be a quickness again. Then mentally stimulating suggestions, puzzles, the games and the card games. It could be, simply you can devise them and generate and distribute in a class and see that how the students are engaged into your classes. They start loving, and this doesn't help only for you as a better learner or better facilitator. This helps to the cognitive domain that they like students learning. I have seen and implemented being on an academic bodies of some schools and colleges with mathematics. And I share with you very profoundly that the kind of attitude the students have with the mathematics has completely changed. Right? Now they start loving because they want, like they're playing card games in a mathematics class, and they are attached with the class. They are attached with the facilitator, and their own learning is more, and their lifelong perception of the subject is different. I'm sure 50% of people here might be hating mathematics right now. Right? Why it is so? Because it was taught improperly. This is not like mathematics is poor or some bad cognitive domain. It is because we are not applying it properly. We could not get the students learn that this kind of knowledge can be utilized in life. We are not connecting them to the life. Active learning connects you to life, right? Connects you to the life. There are some more principles of the constructivism teaching which I have given you. I will not share with them in details because of the time availability. However, I think the circuit branch people can easily understand this language. So the brain is a parallel processor, parallel computing, supercomputing that we have done, right? And that's not a great thing. The India's first supercomputer that was actually a parallel computing system, right? Param and the Param Shavak presently that also works on. Now the learning engages the entire psychology, that what comes along with the physiology, both that happens. The search for the meaning, right, is innate. Right? That's one important. The search for meaning is innate. it comes as it's a human quality, and we should not prevent it. Rather, I would urge my cohort that everybody should try to enhance it, right? That innate principle of searching, keep on searching, try to develop on. That there is some more of the constructivist teaching that comes up here about the search of the meaning occurs through the patterning or the emotions, the brain processing, that the learning involving focused attention and the peripheral perception. This is where staying focused, particularly in this pandemic era, staying focused is very critical. You all are here along with me. I still say that remaining focused is quite difficult, right? It's not easy for each one of us, right? Now, so what are the pedagogies which are based on these constructivism? They are like learning is accomplished using hands-on approach. And this is what is very, very difficult for us today as a facilitator to work on, because there are kinesthetic learners. They want to do something, they want to keep doing. And this active learning only can help you to keep them engaged. There are students who are God-gifted, 10-15% of the class is a God-gifted students. 65% is a one which are dragged by the God-gifted, mediocre that we call, and then remaining 20% which we need to pull them, drag them, right? So we have to take and the responsibility of those 20% that they should come to a level of the others. This is our responsibility, and we should do that as a teacher or as a facilitator. Learners learn by experimentation, importantly. It emphasizes that the learning is not an all or nothing process, but that the students learn the new information that is presented to them by building upon the knowledge, right? So knowledge being constructed. So it's a process of continuous improvement. We have to be very, very important to understand that the process is of a continual improvement. Continuous class assessments that we call, same thing has to be worked out. I will skip this part. So how can we move from moving to a class which we are delivering to a learning event, right? So only a class was taken is not sufficient. The transactions are important. Did the learning take place? Let's question ourselves. Did an interest in more learning take place? This is more important. So what I was doing in a class, that has done. I am sure what the phrases I'm using, many of you might have, those interested with innate nature might have started searching on Google, right? Or started learning on more on that domain. That's what is called as whether you provoked learning more into the given domain. If yes, we are successful. Did the learner learn how to learn? This is very important, right? And that's what a knowledge finally gets constructed, and then their responsibility is over. So this distance doesn't matter, right? Whether it is an online class or physical class with some Pedagogy ki duri class, right? So that's not an different thing which is keeping us ourselves away from the learners. Sometimes people always practice that. Some teachers, they said that we are always keeping the distancing from the learners. That should not happen, right? So the distance should not matter where we are. It matters what we share and the relationship that a facilitator has with a learner. So this part is very important, because like an emotional quotient or the intelligent quotient, IQs, and the one, there is an ELQ, the e-learnability quotient today, right, which is very vital. And if each one of us have to deal with this one, right, today or tomorrow, right, today or tomorrow, anyway, we have to deal with. So there is a continuum of ability of approach, right, that is coming. And there is a 10-level learnability change model which has been worked out, who are the learners and how to work on them. The fluency with a variety of learning strategies going beyond the preferred learning style that we have to, the pronunciation that we have, the way stimulations that we are doing, the engagements with some figures, caricatures, drawings, tables, right? We are drawing into, so all of them is for the engaging and making them active into the learning. And the information handling skills regarding formulations, identifying them, the resources, right? And obviously the accuracy and speed of pace, right? So I have to take everybody with me. And we cannot satisfy it, remember. And do not try to do that. Everyone in your class will not be learning at the same pace. Everybody will not be able to gain the knowledge at the same place. Do not try to attempt to do that. You should take most of them, give some program to the advanced one, and try again, give another program to those who want to cope up with you. Right? That's the important aspect that comes up with this learning. When we come to this 10-point scale, where it starts with level 0 with intrinsically anti-e-learning towards the expert e-learner, and the strategies of actual learning have to be developed in a similar fashion. I cannot develop or imply the same quiz for all, right? For instance, so in a class, when I want to judge the learning abilities, I can develop it. So what I can do is, like, the JEE mains and JEE advanced. So same thing, those who are advanced, I may put up another quiz which I practiced and received very fantastic results, because when I declared in class that 9 students out of 67 are into the advanced one, which based on the merit I have selected, and they have attempted another quiz. Next time I could see that there was an interest of many to be into that advanced class, right? Which is not one. And somebody in advanced class today will go down into the intrinsic anti-learning, because it depends upon the psychology of a student or a learner on that day at that time. Somebody has some difficulty and some problem, or some quarrels, or some noise disturbance, and that a good student also goes down. So it's not a particular stamping of a student, right? So the numbers change. It's not like a same student is in advanced or God gifted category all the time. The student may go in a unlearning or non-learning student category on a particular day. So that day's performance is important for us as a facilitator. So it goes to the expert e-learning systems. So there are some objectives how to develop. So you have to, as a teacher, develop a lesson plan. We can see how to create a lesson plan, how to engage them in a course, right? What are the teacher's role, the purpose using the actual learning, and how to apply them into the given aspect. So I'll skip them quickly. The first, second, and third levels, which I already shared. I'll briskly go through, where we have, because the animation is not there, so it's working like this way. So define learning objectives. Once we define the learning objectives, then we go to the evidences of the learning and assessment tasks, right? Both, because I have to devise a plan of assessment and evaluation at the time I am devising a learning methodology, remember it, right? And accordingly, rather, it helps the reverse engineering to guide me and develop a cognitive system which can help me to define and learning pattern, and then plan learning experiences, right, which we want to give to a given system. So the same thing which we'll be giving. So the big ideas to a given lesson plan, that starts with the learning goals, then objectives, outcomes, nature of the content that I'm trying to share with them, the learning experiences we are trying to giving them, the learner-centric technological techniques and activities, and then constructivism for the knowledge plan. So it could be the goals, objectives, and nature of the content, where what do the teacher teaches, right? So that comes up as a part. So there would be some certain goals, goal 1, 2, 3 kind of systems for a given course. Then I'm just giving you how to develop this lesson plan for actual learning. Then there would be objectives, like it could be like concepts and skills, right? So where they want to learn on, and the skills they would be developing on, and then would be the main idea behind the concepts and the skills that a teacher or a facilitator wants to share with them, right? So how would you summarize this concept in a sentence? That's what comes up one. So that comes up as a system which you can easily find out about a learner-centric approach, right? And keep them. So there would be a current knowledge and skills that goes on a desired knowledge and skills, right? This is what the wisdom being shared by a facilitator using the actual learning method. We are trying to move it If we remain in the first knowledge, current knowledge and skills, it is not an interpretation. What I am doing, a book which is written or a journal article, research article, somebody has published in a cognitive domain, I'm just transferring it to the next. So I'm not doing a facilitator job. I'm not doing a teacher job. So a teacher today as a facilitator, a mentor, right, is a completely different role than what it was. In Indian ethos, we call this as a guru, right? So we have to be that position. Whether we are paid for that or not, we should be valued as guru. The price might be a teacher of a teacher. However, we should be valued at a guru, and that obviously will come up in a next course or duration of a system. It could be of a social. Let's skip one. Yeah, this part which this. So how does it help the students on information, right, sharing? And different people have their different ways with multiple intelligences, and that's what I initially showed you. Every teacher comes up in a different Gardner multiple intelligence, or a learner obviously comes, and so we cannot map. Remember, so there is another way of mapping the learners. And however, it is a little extensive one. It could be done for a class at once, not for a particular course. It is somewhat extensive. We can do it for a course also. However, a learner's mapping, if it is done, then we can come to the cognitive domain and understanding their intelligences and devise specific plans for those students who are God gifted, as well as those who are the not to the mark for a learning space. Yeah, so it's a dynamic process. It's a process which is changing with respect to time, with respect to utility of model, methodology, teacher, and then course, right? All. So it comes with loop completion with students, the existing knowledge that goes to the application. We receive the feedback, we get the questions, and then there would be an understanding. So facilitator works is for empowering the complete process. It's a multi-model delivery system with a knowledge which is being shared in an active learning process. So this is very vital, remembering. So we do, it could be like inquiry based or questioning one. It's not necessary that I work on problem based learning or a project based learning, always give collaborative learning. It could be one project once in a term, one few of the problems in few sessions, right? Or it could be one single collaborative aspect on for all courses. It could not be, it is very difficult to work it out on a separate course. However, other active learning methods you can implement for your own course. Nobody stops, right? And it's not time consuming. It will not require your huge time. It will not consume your family time for sure. Rather, it will help you because it will help you to deal with family members. It increases the gratitude, compassion, right? So all the values of a person also. So it's a personal ethical enhancement. So how to do that is, yeah, now this is more where we want to dwell, and I request each of the learner to dwell on that, because there are students who are verbal, so they are like they want to listen more, right? They don't want to watch or view, read. There are one who are right, and later they become the real-time systems, or there could be kinesthetic. So what is meant by kinesthetic? Kinesthetic means that the want to do something, and that's what challenging. Active learning basically helps you to function and do more on these systems. Now, when we move further, that there would be something for, I am giving you for each class of the acting learning system. So it could be a visual person, right? It could be an auditory person. It could be a verbal person. So this is for a visual instruction analysis. So what we can do is show the videos, demonstrations, the real objects, graphs, diagrams, animations and flashes, or use the technology like animations, simulations, 3D images, and the education 4.0 coming kind of thing like the AR, VR, where right virtual systems and experimentation the students can do. Sorry for that disturbance. So when we come to then after that we come to social, let's say peer-to-peer learning, right? Which students interaction it comes up. So we can identify. Let's say there are 60 students and you divide them each 6 in one group, and then there would be 10 points. So for example, literature survey, right? On a given seminar topic. So all 6 students in the 6 groups, they will be assessed by their peers on a same rubrics developed. Rubrics is something, it's not just like, say, creativity is not a rubric. Remember, creativity is a topic for rubric. So I want to have a scale of 1 through 5. So when I am going to give them 1 mark, 2 mark, 3 marks, 4 marks, or 5 marks, if I devise that, then it is called as a rubric, right? So the rubric is that way. It's not just like the domains that we have decided, titles that we have decided. It's scaling that is called as a rubric. So then the students have to do that, and there could be an in-class debates or discussions by using the methods. So that's called as a peer. This comes in a social one. What we have already seen, that was on a verbal visual method, right? This one. Then there are more like verbal. So they want to hear like storytelling, right? Or it could be involving students into the story as a part of it, or teaching with the enthusiasm, or becoming a role model for them. It could be verbal, right? So this was verbal. Same thing that comes like adding humor, right? That comes up the systems, or it could be teaching in chunks, communication and their relevance. It could be learning on a social platforms like peer-to-peer reviews, right? It could be collaborative. That's what is part of a collaborative or in-class small projects, not at home, right? So bring them together in an jigsaw fashion or an arbitrary fashion, like an roll numbers, odd numbers, sitting on the same row on a given time, or on the same column, right? Anything on the same row or alternative rows. In that way, you collaborate them, and then work on to enhance mingling of the class. That's what is an active learning, right? It could be brainstorming, giving the topics, because why I'm suggesting them is these are all things which a particular facilitator can control easily. Classroom control, sometimes if you are trying to make role models or some other games, then it becomes very difficult to control the class, right? And then becoming them out of the control and bringing them in order is another task for a teacher. And sometimes as a human, many teachers lose their patience, right? Then that comes to another different one, where all the benefits we earn, merits we earn for the actual learning, they are lost if there are exchange of words, or some debating actions, or throwing a student out of the class, which highly impact the class, total class. So let's have it in order. Let's control it. So whatever we can control, let's implement only that. We should not try to being an atlas to shoulder the earth, right? So that should not happen at all the pedagogies I'm trying to implement at one time. So it could be a concept mapping, which I'll come with that concept mapping at a little later time. So this is very important, because particularly in online learning mode, the real-time feedback that comes up. Real-time feedback doesn't mean only that you are just asking the question and getting the answer, asking the raise hands, unmuting them, getting the quiz, or posting on a query. That doesn't mean. It could be like 1 minute paper writing, or they summarize whatever was a last class, right? And you do that, and you ask one student to summarize what happened in a last class, and probably you can ask them, what are you expecting from a given class? And you see that the students are connected, completely attached to your class, right? The students will write down the key ideas, and maybe they need some more clarification from you, and that's where you come in, and your avatar comes up into that picture. So this is very different. Your avatars keep on changing, and that's what is a real active learning. It may happen and that sometimes this professor is being stumped. So some of the queries students are raising, which are very new in the domain. Online learning, you may witness it because all these apps right now, they work on background. So sometimes learners keep them in background, they engage in WhatsApp or some other messaging chats or videos or watching movie, anything they do, and they come back to the class without. That's what is the detaching attaching mode that comes up. And or sometimes they google in about some new term coined, and they stump the professor with a new content knowledge where we may not be aware of. And so how we respond to the situation is one. That's what I said. Adding your wisdom to the action incidents provoked is very vital as a facilitator, right? So you should come out. You can say confidently that, okay, this is something new I am not aware of. I'll come back to you at later or tomorrow, and do it with come back with a class. Don't do it only the individual. Satisfy the individual. However, come out in a class. This is very important so that you enhance the confidence among the learners that my facilitator is capable of dealing with such stuff, right? So that is very important. You may not elaborate on that to that extent. However, you can say that something, a point was invoked, I read, and then I came up with this and briefed the class for a few seconds, minutes, whatever, as per the context. However, right? So that's an important for a facilitator to be into the active learning, and that's what is that comes up as a real time feedback for an active learning system, right? And then it comes up like in Jeopardy or a kind of a system that you can tell them or appreciate them, right? And giving them a real time feedback, right? I'll skip this. Yes, very challenging now, where there are kinesthetic learners. They learn by doing with actions, and then to particularly in this online learning, it's difficult to give them a program because at that time it keeps on disturbing. However, I'll share with you that I allowed only those students to keep their videos on, right? Few of them, 3 to 4 in a class, and then started dwelling with them with a personal chat box and giving them a program on the same design aspect which I was sharing with them. Right? I was a teacher of a design course, and then some cognitive zone where creativity, and keep on challenging them. And at the end of the course, I'll share with you with proud that that was a very engaging for those. Sometimes they get bored with a kind of sessions going on, or kind of because we have to be in lecture mode, and then them to cope up as they are kinesthetic learners. It's their own physiology. No, we cannot change them. We cannot ask them to be visual or auditory or a social, or it could be like a verbal learner. It will not change very easily. So give them a task to perform and keep watching them, right? And you can do that very easily. That is what we have to learn more. Wisdom. Do not react them if they do something, if they put it off, or some other actions are being done. Be more, have a perseverance with you. More mature approach is essential to work on. So again, completing this task, right? I'll close this one. So this is an example which I have shared. Then I will skip this. I have given you an outcome-based learning for each of them, how these outcomes are coming up and shared. So let me see where the plan is engaging and effective. Right? So where is it going? Why? Right? Hook the students and hold their attention. Equip the students with opportunities to experience them. Provide opportunities to reflect, rethink. Right? These are the terms, or 3 R's, which we do is quite vital. That talks about reflect, rethink, and revise. Evaluate the work, and then tailor to the student's need, like a tailor in a bank cashier does that same thing. Tailor to the student's need and organize the activities for maximum engagement and effectiveness. Do not flood them with too many activities. There should not be a scarcity of activity, right? There has to be a proper blend where you are choosing an activity which suits to your domain. Again, I'm saying suits to your domain, please, right? We should not try to imbibe them what we have, right? So let's keep them, some of them. So we have addressed all of them. So there are some more of learning systems. I will try request each of them. You can work on the Wolfram tones, right? The podcast or bring and decide. There is another very important search engine similar to the Google that has come. This is for the language one, which will help you Wolfram, right? So there is an ability to ask question and what is the circumference of the earth, like any kind of system, and you get a language-based system. So it's a Wolfram one search engine. So similar kind of domain should be worked out with the systems of natural language search. Right? Obviously, there would be some who likes to read ebook readers, right? So something device systems, etc. So the global search engines which are coming up, right? So how the three L's for learning is the face-to-face lectures. It could be virtual labs and the library, right? So lectures, labs, and library, three L's, which are now coming as an online role. That's what I shifted and changed my approach also, where to empower my cohort with the online learning systems, with active learning in an online learning environment. Right? So it could be like relevance, relationship, connectivity, mapping, right? Thinking about the systems where you are linking with the different domains, and then there could be an inference, right? Which is coming down. This is the 3D visualization, the animation not there. And then the road ahead, which comes up with the scientific calculations to the data analytics, the expert systems. Then there would be an emulation, right, of the human performance, right, trying to cope up with the existing performance. It's called as emulated systems, right? And there are superhumans that we want to, and we try to do that. However, I request each one of them, let us be humans, right? The qualities that we have, the empathy, the apathy to sympathy to empathy, that is being a good human being that we should do. It should not be just the sympathy with the learners. It should be an empathy that I'm trying to be into their roles and what the difficulties they are facing. And each one of us, there are different difficulties for a facilitator. For example, the voice, reaching to the students, the voice modulation, some of them cannot do the modulations, pronunciations are different, the students may do some mockery of the pronunciations. You should be trying to take it as a humor, right? So I have seen that some of the teachers showing some caricature, which I showed many of you like this, and then the students laugh, trying to curb that. No, then why are you showing the caricature, right? It is to bring them into the class, try to bring the attention. And now the learners stay focusing onto the topic, and then you curb them from laughing. It's ridiculous, right? So we have to understand why I am doing an active learning. Otherwise, don't do that. Then it will be a criticism, and then people try to criticize the active learners. People ask us, why are you doing? This fellow is trying to practice, but this is something wrong he's doing. So the active learning is not good. And then the methodology is criticized. Don't do that, right? And don't try to play too many games in a class, too many role plays. Rather, focus more on the other methods which I have shown, where you can keep the class in order, in control, as well as have active learning in a better fashion. Right? And don't try to be superhumans, right? Maybe supercomputer, that works. Okay, so which one promise I did is we'll be discussing on the mind map, which I will share with you with the systems, right? It's past 2 right now. So what is mind map is basically a visual thinking tool which reflects the way which a brain normally is treated with, right? So the brain is normally thinks, so that is to be reflected. So that's called as a mind map. So anything that you do, and I will share with you with very profoundness that if you practice this, you can definitely enhance the learning and the creativity among your students. The first step of creativity, mind map. Right, two active learning methodologies what I have practiced, I'll share. One is the mind map, another is flipped class. somewhat more difficult with flipped class. However, the mind map is quite easy to work on. So here, this is a term coined by Tony Buzan and to describe a creative thinking process, which is brilliant method of putting your thoughts into a visual format that encourages and fosters the process of thinking creativity, right? So this is a fantastic study aid. And I'll tell you, many times it happened that we had been in some meetings, being into the education administration, running.
Hello, sir. Sir, excuse me. We are
yes.
running ahead of time. It's too.
Okay, maybe 10 minutes more.
Can you reduce it? Because questions, I think participants would like to ask questions.
Yeah, so I will try to sum up very quickly with mind map as well as flipped class. Thank you, madam, for demanding that, right? No, it becomes, being active into the class. So sometimes the experiential learning that keeps on engaging with the one. So I'll skip this. However, we can do on brainstorming with creative ideas, make them with better decisions, take fast, effective notes, right? This helps us individual, and you are developing a learner to be a good employable. Remember, and this is the reason I am not sharing more because of time limitations. However, the difficulty in employability, if you are into the education administration, each one of you are reading more, I'll share it with you, is not learning the new domains. In software, and it's not like learning, students don't know R or Python and data analytics systems or VR and IIoT. It's not that. It's like that they are not able to visualize. The perception level is low, right? They are not able to make it creative. That's the only thing which is a hurdle for employability and is going to be very difficult in coming time. I request each one of you to go through with Elon Musk, with Tesla, and its the thinking policies, right? How they choose, right? And that's what it comes up with: concise notes for books, documents, reports, prepare the documents, and all. These are the benefits of coming. Few of the mind maps, right? You can easily do with creative insights with the thinking. I have done it for thinking way itself, right? And these are all now available in public domain also. So you can see about new ways of thinking with the brain and what are the ways of objective context or the companies that they are coming up. Then there is something where approach I shall skip. This is for global warming, in fact, for example, right? So and you keep on drawing in any fashion, and then after drawing some of them, you come to an organized way. You train your brain, right? And then why the AI and more, we say that we embrace. We need to embrace the AI ML, right? And artificial intelligence, machine learning. I say we need to more embrace on humanity, right? So this mind map and creativity, humanity and creativity, where the mind map comes and you try. Because in the pandemic, all AI failed. Nothing was working because nobody has experienced this way after 1928. So there was no program which trained the machine, right, to deal with the situation. And if you see all the domains they were working with the humans, right, the AI systems fail. This happens with the development, and that's what the global that's what my meaning always is, that update and upgrade, right? And that's the only mantra for our facilitators, which can keep us into the domain or respected in a domain. If we want to be in a domain without self-respect, I don't have any suggestion from that. However, if a teacher or a facilitator wants to earn self-respect, updating and upgrading, and moving from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, right? Arts comes up with visual arts, performing arts, or creativity in general. This is more vital. So STEM to STEAM is the progression that should happen into the active learning, right? So that's a major takeaway for today's session: update and upgrade, and STEM to STEAM, right? That's important. And if you see, I think you can see this, the top image as teach, and the bottom reflection somewhere closing to learn, right? So that means what? That it's all are they are not the two sides of a coin. I don't agree with the term two sides of a coin, because they are never facing each other. That should not happen. The reflection, teaching and learning are the reflections, because what we teach, that's only becomes a part of learning, and what we learn, only we can teach that. Otherwise, we cannot teach that. There has to be another one, which is called as a learn, unlearn, and relearn. Right? So that's what I will share. But however, does flipped class means an inverted class? So maybe physically not. However, yes, on a thought process basis, we have to do that. So how do we that is we can do some examples to the students first, where they are working on. So they ensure that the students do the preparation necessarily for productive class time. Most of the time it is observed that 40% of the class time is in introduction and some basics. Remaining 50% goes on into the methodology, deductive systems, and maximum 10% or 5% only in applications case study, 5% in discussion, summarizing, or the attendance and some other kind of systems. That 40% we can save. This is my personal experience which I have shared, and I will tell you that you can get fantastic benefits from this actual learning practicing. And it's an experiential learning. The Walwood and Anderson, they have said as an assignment model, the students they produce the work, writing systems, etc., a priori to the class, and the students receive the productive feedback through the processing activities that comes up, right? And this is what I was invited in Delhi at Higher Education Summit to one, where by chance I could meet our Prime Minister, right? And then I was appreciated in a meeting. I was that big close to that one. So you can earn high recognition if you are doing these pedagogical methods, and that is easily possible, right? So how we can do that, how we can express ourselves into higher bodies and we become an invited aspect. So it is just a recognition other than the pleasure that we go for. It provides the opportunity for students to gain first exposure prior to class, very important. So the students know that this is an important topic I'm going to learn. They get attached, engaged, provide an incentive for students to prepare for the class. So most of the time it doesn't happen. You say, okay, this is a non-credit course, this is an audit course, so the student don't do that. If there are no marks for midterm exams or assignments, the student don't submit. So we want to attach some credit. We want to give some program to that. Flipped class gives that credit to these learners, right? So that is an important incentive to the learners. Why I should do that? I should get something in return, which is a human tendency, right? We are greedy. Humans are greedy. No. Provide a mechanism to assist student understanding, right? That uses this flipped class systems. This gives a better who is a verbal, auditory, kinesthetic, social, right? We can know about our auditory. We know them better. We know the students better. Knowing your student better is a first work of a facilitator. Provide say mechanism to assess student understanding, right? So one. Then the classroom activities that focus on higher level of cognitive activity, because then the facilitators cannot do that. We keep on saying time is not sufficient, we cannot complete the curriculum. Sometimes there are syllabi, right? There is no curriculum. So in that case, then we have to devise the curriculum and the content proper one with content beyond syllabus, the pedagogies. It's a huge task for a facilitator as a teacher with other the co-academic work. So we have to be very, very particular in with this. If we implement flipped class, obviously we get more time to discuss on applications and case studies. Then this is called as a metacognitive approach to the instruction, which can help the students and learners to do that. For examples I am doing, I will not go on because I wanted to have a poll quiz here. However, I will stop that to active and engage you because of time limit. I have to, being into the course of directives of the organizers, so I have to observe them. So I will quickly come up with. So teacher A identifies 2 videos on YouTube to the concept that the teacher wants to discuss during the next class. So teacher A then shares the YouTube link of these videos with all the students very in advance in the class. The teachers spend the entire time in explaining the content in the videos, so the students comprehend the concepts, right? This is the one scenario. Teacher B identifies the same two videos, then he or she, it could be, then ask Adi, I want to be, don't want to be a few seconds for reading. So that's what is suggestion came. So the another teacher that has given the same videos right into one, however, providing with a quiz having 5 problems related to the videos. Right. So, for example, Dr. Mangal ma'am is keen in developing quiz, not only just a hi hello feedback, however, quiz based on what are the takeaways for different sessions. This is a fantastic approach to assess learning, right? So the same way the teacher B is identifying them, the students with the quiz. The teacher C identifies a research paper related to the content, and he or she provides a photocopy of the paper to the students and asks them to read and come after that. And then next one is the teacher D identifies a paper, gives a photocopy to the students, asks them to read, and then in a class prepares a group discussion activity in which the students have to identify the pros and cons, the merits and demerits of the method discussed in the research paper, right? Here it was not there earlier, right? It was just giving a research paper that is facilitating by a teacher. However, it was just like a discussion later. However, here it was given. So I just give you 5 seconds. Think on your own awareness, metacognition, which are the teachers A, B, C, or D, which are practicing flipped class. Right? So let's think of that and work on that. Now, anyway, the solution is there. Teachers B and D, they are practicing the flipped class active engaging classroom methodology. And remember, it can be anything. Suppose you are using a LMS, free LMS, like Google Classroom, or there is a course networking, right? You can go and Google in course networking CN website, where you can launch your course free of cost. You can launch your, create a class, Google Classroom, right, with your Gmail account with Drive, and then create Google quiz on that one where it is secure, and you can assess them. These are one, or it could be MOOC or Moodle, right, which is a paid LMS, or there are many paid LMS learning management systems which are available. However, the flipped class and similar systems can give you without such costing. There is no costing which come up. You can visit with IIT Bombay site and then get some more of these details, right? So that comes up with a Bloom's taxonomy understanding, how we can deal with, and obviously perform with actual learning systems, engage the students more, and the content. I'm not touching with the content. Nobody touches with the content a teacher is sharing. This is because it is your own domain, and developing your own domain is a teacher's responsibility. However, sharing that domain to the learners, online learners, physical learners of a class, or it could be a teaching session or a training session to industry. This completely opens a big domain for the teachers who were in a cocoon, right, to come out and share, teach them, learn them industry practitioners. Because the industry practitioners in last 3 months I have experienced, they have completely come up saying that we agree now that we are not up to date. And where the facilitators, teachers should come, I urge each one of being here that to be into the part, right, and then find out that how you can deliver the sessions or the trainings to the impart trainings to the industry personnel. That is an important aspect that we all have to come up with, right? So there itself, I think I shall stop here, right? And I have given some references for you, right? You can get them all. Wherever information is borrowed, that is acknowledged, right? So thank you very much, right, for having the perseverance to learn about, to share about, to find out about the different activities. Over to the organizers.
Nevle madam, thank you, sir. Nevle madam.
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
You can continue.
Thank you, sir. It was really a nice session. According to coming generation, what changes teachers has to do while conducting classes and different active learning techniques which they have to implement, like quiz, writing activities, poster, drawing, think, pair, share, and many more, by which we can keep students engaged, and also how we have to do our lesson plan so that students will be kept engaging, and which will lead us to be a good facilitator. Thank you so much, sir.
Right,
It
right.
was really a nice session, and on behalf of AISSMS College of Engineering, I extend my gratitude to you for sharing your
Thank you.
valuable time with us.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, participants. Now we will start our today's last